Good morning, good morning, good morning. Went ahead and started live just a little bit early. I've got my little graphic up here up front. This is to allow the pre-roll ad to get going. I'll give it about 30 seconds and then I'll switch over to the other one. So if you are watching this on a replay, cruise forward to about the 30-second mark, and that's when I'll go ahead and take it off. And we're about there now. So, hey y'all, good morning. How's everybody doing? Good to see everybody out there. We should be doing very well. I finally have, I believe, replay, all of my technical issues taken care of. Everything is looking good. Let me go ahead, however, and whip up this pop-out chat so I can set it over here directly under my camera so it looks like I'm talking to all y'all when I'm reading what you're saying. Oh man, it's been a long time coming trying to get this all straightened out and figured out. This has been a real nightmare. For those of you who are interested, it turns out it was a bad signal amplifier that was here at the house. Cable people came out and fixed it, and I've had a smoking good connection ever since. So now that that's all settled out, what I'm going to try to do today is go ahead and talk about the video today and the video last week about resizing multiple objects, and today about creating that monogram. And then we'll get into, whatever else y'all want to talk about. So let's get going here and see who all we got in the chat. We have Ice Cream 62 checking in from Italy. How you doing? Hope everything is going okay for you and yours there. Clem Gordon, Thomas Grimm, Mr. Ron Owensby, Mervyn over at Poppy's Woodshed. How you doing this morning? We have Jack Painter, Ronald Ledger, Roger the Tinker, who helped me more than he'll ever know with this whole situation. Let's see. We've got Dave Krause. How you doing today? Steve Nealon, Harneal Media, the man, the myth, the legend behind Harneal Media for all your website needs, whether you know you have them or not. Lloyd Miner, and who else we got here? Kevin Els checking in from South Africa. Holy cow. Richard Poulin. Let's see who else. Wendell Holland. Leon White. Oh, Bob Heltebridal, poster of all things rude, crude, socially unacceptable, and just downright funny. Ashley from Chipped Builds. How you doing this morning? Mr. Jim Hester. Joe Schlecht-Leitner. Hope I got that right. From British Columbia, right up the coast from me, about 8-10 hours. Jill Knight, Mr. Dave Gatton himself. And see who else we got. Earl Walker, David Aschenbrenner, Jose Rodriguez from Brazil. Bobby Orr, loved you on the hockey ice there, Bobby. Richard Weiss, Tim Reed, Ayal Peleg from Israel. Holy cow, this is truly an international crowd. Judy Phillips. Bob Lee. How you doing? Marcel Prohl. Motorsport? Motorsport. That's what I'm talking about. Dan the Man Langen. E-Cabinet Tips and Tricks. Good to see you hanging in there with us. Charles Lawrence. Boy, the list keeps getting longer. Alvin Allison, Troy Pritchard, Jim Johnson, Mary Rebecca Carlson, excuse me, Michael Bell, Javi's watching too, your screen sharing me live. Well, this must be working all right. All for boating. Good morning, y'all. Thank you for joining me. Real glad everything is working this time. So it actually is a live stream and not a collection of still pictures. So, let's see. Let's talk about what's going on today. We can talk about today's video. We can talk about last week's video, all of the above, none of the above. Just however we can, help you all out if you're having any questions or any problems. Not seeing any questions way up at the top. Let me go ahead and come on back down. Some of you, we had one eagle-eyed viewer, noticed that today's live stream is number 30 and number 29 is missing. Well, it's not really missing, it's just unlisted because that was a complete and total train wreck, even worse than the other train wrecks I've had. So I kind of I didn't skip it and I didn't rename this. Just know that this is the live Q&A for last week and this week. So what the heck? So we can start here with Judy Phillips. She has a question. Great video, Mark, on the Monogram. Thank you so much. Anyone have suggestions on what type of hanger to use on these? It depends on if you're going to go for an interior or exterior insulation. I'll be honest, if it's going outside, you have several options. There are, let's see. You're going to have to be dealing with wind. You're going to be dealing with rain and everything. First of all, I would paint it with a good exterior latex house paint. Because, I mean, how many times do you paint a house in your lifetime? Once or twice, maybe. Pretty maintenance free. I'd paint it all the way around, front, back, everything. And then just me talking here, I would just mount it with screws and then touch up the screws with the same paint. I mean, we're talking about something that's big. It's going to be seen from a distance. If it's going to be interior, you've got everything from the self-adhesive foam pad, like for mirror mounting, the little mounting tabs. Stick one on the back on the top and tack it up where you want it to go. You could even use those little sawtooth hangers. What you're going to use to fasten it to the back of the project with, I'm not really clear. Various methods of hanging. You can even use a like picture frame wire, just a small piece up at the top, put a nail in the wall and hang it via that wire. You can get all kinds of creative with them. So hope that helps you out. So let's see. Nice video today, says Jim Hester. Thank you, sir. I've had a lot of problems with getting confused while trimming vectors, and your organized hunt method is a lot better. Thanks. Yeah, I find that as well, Jim, because I was doing a shotgun approach myself, and I was ending up with a bunch of little small trim segments that were hiding here and there that was just messing everything up. So I finally decided, let's try to organize this and take it in a logical order. And by starting, like, for instance, inside the letters and getting all that cleared out, and then the perimeter around the letters, the spaces in between, and then anywhere else, where you would have one piece overlapping over another piece, get everything in that overlap, get all that cleared out, and I was having far fewer problems. So it just really helped out. So Roger says, figured out a problem from 1,000 miles away. Yeah, and you did a good job, too, because I'd have never thought to even look for a lot of that stuff. So, Ashley, train wrecks are usually fun to watch. Yes, true, but they're not fun when you're the engineer. So, So let's see here what we got going on. Jigsy's Workshop, howdy. Thanks for your great videos. Thanks for watching them. I don't know how great they are. They're pretty long and boring, but okay. Let's see. Do we have any questions at all? Any questions at all on today's video or last week's video? I've got a couple of things to show you in Aspire about today's video. I'll go ahead and pull that up now. I'm going to be bringing in a spire, so let me do, let's see, let's bring up a spire, then we'll do this, and here's hoping that everybody is actually seeing this, and you should be. Okay, what we have here is we have the letter that I imported into Aspire or VCarve, whichever. And I haven't done any modifications to it at all. It's still a text object. Um, some folks may be wondering why, when I went into move and transform mode and then held down shift to resize so it would resize in the middle, why did I do that? Why didn't I just grab a hold of a corner? Let me zoom in up here. Why didn't I just grab a hold of a corner and resize it this way, get that set, then zoom back out and come resize it this way? Well, you can certainly do that, and it is a little bit quicker, but something you need to watch out for. It's not so bad with this letter L because it's pretty much straight vertical. On some letters like M that have width to them, like an M, or a round letter like an O, you can pull it out of proportion a little bit. So it may have a distorted look to it. You can watch out for that, and it may or may not happen. But just know that that is a possibility. That's why I tend to go ahead and enlarge things from the center. That way I keep them in proportion, meaning the width and the height stays proportional. So I got a tip from Karen Parker Haddon, who runs the CNC Tips, Tricks, and Project Finishing Facebook group. It's an excellent group. If you're not a member, do look for them. CNC Tips, Tricks, and Project Finishing. She suggested that they do a lot of these monograms. So she suggested when you load your monogram in, when you do your font over here in the text window, that go for bold, because what that does is it makes things a little fatter and they tend to break a lot less often. Now that's a good tip. However, if you look over here, do know that you have some intersections and some additional cleanup to do. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. What you'll want to do from here would be to go ahead and convert it to curves, then come in with your trim tool and you'll have to take care of these intersections to get rid of them. Otherwise, it will confuse the heck out of a VCarve toolpath. And you can just kind of roam around, trim those away. Also notice down here we have some overlapping vectors. And it's just going to be a matter of coming back in and trimming them up as well to get rid of those overlaps. So this is a good alternative, especially if you're using something like 1/4-inch thick material, which that would be 3 millimeter for those of you who use the metric system. It is a viable alternative, and something that you might want to look into, especially on something like this where you have these very narrow pieces. Then I can go ahead and select all of my initial. Let me get rid of that border. And I was asked why I didn't come over here and fit curves to the selected vectors in an attempt to reduce the number of points in the design. And the reason is because if you look at the number of points in the design, there aren't that many. So changing it over to Bezier curves, for instance, watch when I hit this preview button, it actually adds more points. So not using the fit curves to selected vectors, I mean, you can check it. That would be a good thing to do, but it's really not necessary if you're using, a decent font to begin with. Now, some of this is just silly stuff. I mean, we can go in here and go into note editing, type the letter N, and get rid of that point there because there's no sense in having it. Then we'll come in here, right click and click smooth point, kind of adjust that. Then just basically kind of make it look a little bit smoother. There we go. So there's a lot of fiddling you can do with this. Get in and smooth things out and check them out. But all in all, this would just be added work, added cleanup work for you. It's not, strictly speaking, necessary. It's just something to help out. Should you decide that you want to clean things up a little bit more. So let's see here what else we've got. IL wants to know, do you have such monograms to show how the final products looked? I don't have any here. Everything that I have cut, it basically is gifts for other people, or they're custom things that are gone out already to the client. I just don't have one here. I will cut one, but no, I don't have one here. Let's see. Jigsy's Workshop. I was having serious issues with my Z. It was cutting too much. For days, it was wrecking my head until I checked the carriage bolts. Always check the mechanical first. Always check the mechanical first. You'll find that some people will want to automatically dive into software and check on what's going on to see if maybe they changed a setting or something like that. Settings don't change themselves. So if you haven't gone in and made a change to any of your settings, 999 times out of 1,000, they're going to be exactly the same as how you left it the last time you used it and it worked. If you changed a setting, go back and change that setting back to what you had and try it. Personally, if I have to change a setting, I write down what the old setting was before I enter a new setting, because I know my luck. If I don't, I'll have to go back, and if I don't remember, I'm kind of hosed there. So, always check the mechanical first. Okay, Jigsy's Workshop again. Didn't watch today's video. Don't even know what a monogram is. I thought it was something. Oh, I see what you did there. Yeah, okay. Let's see. Percy Kuka, a couple of weeks ago I got cut off while you were answering my question of if I could step down of 2.5 millimeters to cut 20 millimeters with a 6-inch bit. Wow, this cuts in 8 passes without creating tabs. I remember the question, and I was having serious internet problems. It wasn't your fault, it was mine, Percy. It depends. The size of bit that you're looking at is pretty big for it to hold by itself. I would probably tend to go with tabs on something like that, unless you absolutely cannot go with tabs. Yeah, 6 millimeter bit. That's for basically a 1/4 inch bit for us that use the Imperial system. That's pretty big. And let's see, you're cutting 20 millimeters thick. I don't know. I would be hesitant to say that enough chips would pack down in to hold that piece in place. Experiment with some scrap, but be careful. I'm hesitant to do that. Some people, I know there's probably some pros out there say, oh yeah, I do it all the time. I don't do that all the time. I would be hesitant to do it, but That's just me. If you can, I would definitely use tabs because you're talking about a large piece there. So, e-cabinet tips and tricks. Is there a way to set the spacing for text? Yes, sir, there is. If you want to make friends and influence people, it's called Kerning. And I will go back into Aspire here and show you that. Make sure that I'm in Aspire, and I am. When you have your text, let me throw some text up here real quick. And we'll do, just for giggles, I'll drag it out here so we're not over the top of the other. You can see here that I've got an L and an I that are touching right there. What you'll do is you'll come over here, and while it's still a text object, before you convert it to curves, you come over here to this icon right here, Edit Text Spacing and Curves. And click on that icon, and it doesn't appear anything's happened until you bring out your cursor. And you see how it's changed to the V and the A with the arrows pointing towards one another. If I use it this way, it's going to make the letters go closer together. If I hold down Shift, you see those arrowheads turn around. Now I can click this way, and it'll space them out just slightly. There. And do know this is also proportional, meaning the closer you zoom, the finer the adjustment is. If you go further out and click, it's larger movements than if you go zoom in and click. So that's how you adjust the spacing. You can move letters together and space them apart. So I hope that answers your question there. So let me see now. If I'm back, I'm back. Yes. So let's see. Lloyd Miner, last week's demo on resizing multiple objects was very timely for me and worked perfectly. Saved me a bunch of time. Thanks so much for your expertise. Well, I don't know about expertise, but you're very welcome. I'm glad it worked out for you. Let's see. Jim Hester, one of your fonts today reminded me that I'm looking for a font that will simulate the look of carving initials in a tree trunk with a pocket knife. Any suggestions? The only suggestion that I can make to you, Jim, is to get on that Dafont website, DAFONT, and just start looking around. They have all kinds of fonts in there, but be warned, you can ruin your life on that website just downloading everything. So, So I would just get in and look, do a Google search, just type in tree trunk pocket knife font or something like that and see what comes up. Also look in an image search, that can sometimes help out. So let's see. Kent Mays, can you touch on inlays? I'm having trouble with the male side fitting the pocket. I have not done any inlays. I'm getting ready to do a couple of them here at home to get a few under my belt. But I have not personally done any inlays yet, so I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to help you, Kent. It's just one of those cases of I have a philosophical problem of attempting to try to teach someone or help someone do something that I've never done myself. I just don't think that's right. So it's let me get a couple under my belt, and some videos will be coming soon. So let's see. Let's see. Yes, Percy, did that answer your question? I apologize. Let's see. All right, looks like I'm basically caught up with the questions. That DeFont website, I'm telling you, has all kinds of fonts in there. They have too many fonts. You can download, you can fill your computer with fonts. The only problem is you're going to end up scrolling through a ton of fonts when you go into VCarve and go to write some text, like I'm doing right now. So, Richard Poulin, if I want to use a downcut bit for a nice top finish, if the bit's 1/4 of an inch, what would be the smallest hole I would be able to do without starting a fire? I like to try to keep about a 32nd of an inch clearance. But I still have kind of a problem with doing that. I just prefer to do all my drilling with an upcut bit. So, that's just me. I mean, I set my spoil board on fire using a downcut bit, not knowing any better. It's just a matter of you wouldn't think friction would build up. So, but at least not that much anyway. But I was drilling a series of like 5 or 6 holes, and by the third one, it had heated up so much that when that bit pulled up out of the hole that it drilled, glowing red embers fell out. And then I saw and smelled the smoke. So it's like, oh my gosh, it's not fun. So, excuse me. So yeah, I have personal paranoia on using a downcut bit for any kind of drilling. I use an upcut bit. But if you absolutely have to use a downcut, try to make that hole a 32nd bigger than that bit. If you need to drill a 1/4 inch hole, either use an upcut bit or switch over to an 1/8 inch diameter bit and drill it that way. So let's see. Ice Cream 62, not related to today's topics, but will you do a video about lithophanes in the future? I do have plans on doing a video on lithophanes. It's been on my list, I'll be honest, for about 4 years now, and I've yet to do one. And I've really got to get out there and get one done. I have a photo all set up for it. I know what I want to do. But the thing is, I have the old Photo VCarve software. I've owned it and never used it for about 4.5 years. So that's what I'll be doing it in. I don't know if it's possible to do in VCarve. I know it's possible to do them in Aspire. I just haven't done one yet. So, let's see. Motorsport says inlay videos would be great. I agree. I just haven't done one yet. And that's mainly because I've got like 4 bandsaws and all of them are broken. So I just got to get one done and get one fixed so I can cut off my material. I know you can run it through a planer. I know you can use the CNC to carve it all off. That's just, I don't know. I just don't like doing it that way. So let's see. David Jennings. Hi, Mark. Late to the Q&A. How do you feel about using the tape and CA glue method for holding material? Sorry if this has already been asked. You're new here, aren't you? Yes. I did a video on that technique. I freely and openly admit that I stole it unashamedly from Ben Crow over at Crimson Guitars a little over 4 years ago, and tested it out several times, and I got to tell you, David, I love it. I use it almost exclusively. I don't use clamps. I mean, I have, but I prefer the security of tape and CA glue. If it's too big, if the piece of material is too big, I just screw it down. But I've been known to put tape and CA glue on the back just to hold pieces. Like, for instance, the Monogram video that went out today. That's what I would do. I would put a strip of tape and CA glue in the center, and then another one out on the far edge, top and bottom, and then split the difference, another one in the center, just to keep those pieces in place, hold them in place, so nothing come flying out while it was cutting. And that way I don't have to use tabs. Using a down cut bit and relying on the chips to hold the parts in on something that thin, I don't know if that's a viable option. I don't trust it. So, but yeah, I rely on the tape and CA glue method a lot, really a lot. I get 2P10 glue and activator at a local hardwood supplier for about maybe 25 cents more expensive than if I order it online, and I can get it now. So I use the 2P10. But having said that, any CA glue will work. I prefer to use the activator with it. You don't have to. The only thing to remember is if you're not using the activator, you should definitely wait. I mean, keep it pressed down and give it at least a minute before you even attempt to carve. That's why I prefer the activator. I mean, it sets up like right now. Once you get it down, it ain't moving until you take it off. So I'm a big fan. And I'll put a link to that video down in the description of this when it goes live. Let me write it here. All right. I'll put that down in the description. Let's see. Can you recommend a good general set of bits for starting off from eBay, please? I can do you one better, Jigsy. I did a video on a set of essential bits that I think a beginner should have. These are bits that should see you through just about any project a beginner would come across. We're talking end mills, ball nose end mills, V-bits, a large diameter, fly cutter, for lack of a better phrase. But yeah, it would be, I'll put a link to that one down in the description too. And there's links to all of the bits that I demonstrate in the description. Some of them are Amazon links. Some of them are eBay links. But if you know what the bit is called, you can at least look it up on eBay. I'll also put a link to a couple of the bit sellers on eBay that I use. One is the store's Carbide Plus. They go by Drillman 1. Lots of good quality bits. I got all my smaller bits from them, all my 1/8 diameter shank bits from them. And they're good quality. We're talking Kyocera bits and other good name brands. So, but yeah, they work real well. So let's see. IAL is hooking Jim up with DeFont has a font called Carve It Up that might be what you're looking for. All right. Terrific. Paul Zank and Damian Durant have a great tutorial on V-inlays, says Richard Weiss. Excellent. I know my buddy Peter Pasuelo over on his channel, CNC Nuts. He has an excellent tutorial on V-inlays. He gets into the technical side of it, but he doesn't get into a lot of troubleshooting. So, but definitely give him a view. I'll put a link to Peter's V-inlay video down in the description box below. And just as a personal aside, if you're not subscribed to Peter Pasuelo CNC Nuts, you're really missing out. He's got some excellent videos over there. A lot of excellent advice, some very cool projects, and he breaks it down to the basics like I do. He is absolutely the first CNCer I subscribed to when I was just getting started before I even met Dave Gatton. I was just interested in CNC, and he was doing some cool stuff. And then I met Dave Gatton in a cigar box guitar forum, and the rest, as they say, is history. But he's definitely worth watching. Let's see, Lloyd Miner. Is there a difference between using a pocket tool path and the drilling tool path when drilling holes in a project? Yes, there is, Lloyd, and the main difference is you can use one bit to cut different sizes of holes. For instance, if you're cutting some 5/16 inch diameter holes and some 3/4 inch diameter holes, some 2-inch diameter holes, you can do them all with 1/4 inch bit and all on the same tool path. Just select all of your circles, set up the tool path, and cut them. So long as they're all to the same depth, that is. If they're different depths, then, then you'll have to do separate tool paths for different depths. The other thing is a drilling tool path is sometimes the better way to go, but basically put it's the using the pocket to cut out a hole gets rid of the waste in the middle too. So you can pocket out a hole, it'll start from the center and work its way out, and that waste material is just gone as chips. You don't have little plugs getting hit by the bit and flying out at you, and you don't have little tabs to clean up after and everything else. So let's see. Hey, Mark, I want to cut about 50 small horse heads out of Lexan acrylic. Good luck, my friend. Good luck. They will be about 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch. What bit would you recommend? And can you use tabs on something that small? You can certainly use tabs on something that small. How you're going to clean them up, I have no idea. But having said that, let me say I've not cut acrylic on my CNC. I just haven't had a need to. Also, something else to consider is I'm using a router. I'm not using a spindle. And I can't slow that router down slow enough to cut acrylic without it melting. So my one attempt at cutting acrylic was a major failure. So while I'm using a router, I just don't even attempt. You might get a hold of Javi over at Javi's Wood Shop and see what he recommends. When I said good luck, my friend, I didn't mean to make it sound like you couldn't do it. You certainly can. It's just that you need to be able to slow your spindle down and use an open flute or O-flute bit made for acrylic. So, Jonathan W., the man, the myth, the legend himself. Good to see you working on the upholstery on that Roadster, Jonathan. I cannot wait to hear that puppy fire up and see you take it to the cruise in. No, the virus has not gotten me at all. But then again, I'm an old retired guy. I stay home. So this, what are they calling it? Social distancing. I've been training up for this. So this is my week to shine. So it's good to see you here, and thank you for checking it out. Let's see, Wendell Holland, what feeds and speeds do you use on the monograms? Depends on the bit, and it depends on, it depends on your machine. It depends on everything. I have some default feeds and speeds set for each bit, and it's based on the bit's diameter and the depth of cut. And I have pretty conservative speeds set, but I use Mach 3 out on the machine, and I can increase my feed rate on the fly as it's cutting. And I do that because every piece of material is different. I would use a different feed rate on plywood than I would on maple, than I would on walnut, than I would on sapele or something like that. So I started a conservative rate, and I increase the feed rate on the fly as it's cutting, and I see how it's cutting. And, that may be 80 inches a minute, that may be 120, it may be 45. It just depends on the It just depends on the material and the bit and how it's working that day. And if the CNC gods are smiling or if they're throwing rocks at me. So, Roger the Tinker says single flute bit for acrylic, slow RPM. That's what I understand. Again, like I say, I'm using a router and it will slow down to the slowest I can get that down to is 12,500 RPM. And that's just too fast. So from what I gather, it's something between 6,000 and 8,000 RPM, but my router won't slow down that much. So I don't even attempt anymore. Let's see. Jeff, how you doing? Restore 66. I need to straight line 100 pieces of pine that are 35 inches long. I want to do it on my CNC. Good luck, my friend. Good luck. That's about the time I would make a straight edge jig and do it on the table saw, then run it over the joiner. I mean, you could, but that's, this comes down to decision making in that sometimes the CNC is not the right tool for the job. You could create a tool path and set up a whole bunch of pieces and on your table and use the router to straight edge them. But it would take you longer to do that 100 pieces than it would to get out on the table saw with a straight edging jig, a couple of toggle clamps on a long piece of plywood, and just go for it. So, let's see. Jigsy's Woodshop. Would you join with Roger Webb and CNC Nuts and do a CNC podcast? I've never had the pleasure of meeting Roger Webb. Peter Pasuelo of CNC Nuts and I have done live streams on Dave Gatton's CNC show in the past, and which brings up another point. Sorry, Dave. If you're not subscribed to Dave Gatton, you need to do so. I'll put a link to his channel in the description of this one as well. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just don't know if I would have the time. Also, you have to remember the time difference. I'm in the U.S., Peter's in New Zealand. Roger, I believe, is in Australia. So it's already tomorrow night there. So finding a good time for all of us to get together would be interesting. But you know what? If one of them asked me to be on a podcast with them, I'd leap at the chance because both of them are very, very good at what they do. And, like I said, having talked with Peter quite a bit in the past, he's just a good guy. I like him a lot. He's just good people. So, Percy Kuka has a tip here. I do a lot of acrylic work. Cutting should not go beyond 1 millimeter step down. For something that small, laser cutting is advisable. I would tend to agree, Percy, but if you don't have a laser, it's kind of difficult. But yeah, I would agree. So, alrighty. I'm going to go ahead. Holy cow, we've been on here for 43 minutes. I try to keep these short simply because I know you all have better things to do. Holy cow, we've got 70 people watching. Who knew? I'm going to make sure to get all of those links down in the description to this video as soon as it becomes a video. Give it about 10 minutes, and there will be links to the CA glue and tape video, the essential beginners bits video, Dave Gatton, Peter Pasuelo, their channels, and Peter's VCarve inlay videos. I will get them in the description as soon as we get done here. Also, for those of you in the U.S. on the West Coast, remember the Vectric Users Group meeting in San Diego this September. I will be there just as an attendee. I will not be speaking. I'm just going to be there as an attendee. Hope to see you there. Come up and say hello. I'll be passing out stickers and what have you, shaking hands and just meeting folks and putting faces to names. So hope to see y'all there. Thank you for joining me. Y'all be careful out there. You don't need 100,000 rolls of toilet paper. Just need to remember what Mom said. Wash your hands. Relax. We'll all make it through this. Everything's cool. Until next week, thanks everybody for watching. I really do mean that. Y'all take care.